Make this summer unforgettable driving in a Mercedes-Benz from Mercedes-Benz of Edison. Join me Friday, July 10th at 12 noon, where I will be hosting my show live from Mercedes-Benz of Edison. I'm excited to see my friend and GM Doug Wells and the entire staff. Mercedes-Benz of Edison is committed to making your shopping experience stress-free. That's one reason they were named the 2026 Mercedes-Benz Dealer of the Year by Cars.com. Visit Mercedes-Benz of Edison and meet me, Greg Kelly. See you soon.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi!
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
We have bombshell developments today in the Seth Rich case. You may remember Seth Rich was the Democrat National Committee staffer who was brutally and mysteriously murdered shortly after information from the Democratic National Committee allegedly ended up in the hands of WikiLeaks. Of course, Robert Mueller and those in the deep state invented the false narrative that the Democrat National Committee had been hacked by a Russian online hacker. It was at my trial that the FBI was forced to admit that they had never inspected the computer servers of the Democratic National Committee. In fact, there is to this day no proof whatsoever that the DNC was hacked by the Russians or anyone else. For many years, there has been speculation that Seth Rich was the leaker of that information, but the FBI has stoutly denied that they had any information in their files regarding Seth Rich's murder. Today, we learned from an attorney pursuing this case that the FBI has found previously hidden at the FBI headquarters substantial, allegedly thousands of records regarding Seth Rich's murder that were linked back to the 2016 Crossfire hurricane investigation. This, of course, is the second time that the FBI has found records in burn bags that related to that investigation. Now, these have not been released yet. We don't know what the FBI will agree to release. But this is bombshell information and an important case that I think blows the cover on the entire Russian collusion hoax once again. We already know, based on the disclosures by the former director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, that the Russian collusion claims were a hoax invented by the Biden administration, or probably by the Obama administration, beginning in 2016 and in one continuous seditious conspiracy. Since that time, the FBI has gradually and slowly admitted to having data regarding Seth Rich. They first denied having anything, then they denied having his work laptop or an image of his personal laptop or any other information. Nonetheless, over time, they have slowly admitted a much greater knowledge. Perhaps Joe DeGeneva's grand jury investigation now going on in South Florida can put the heat on these very same players. So this is a developing story and one of the hottest stories in American politics. For many years, no one would cover the question of Seth Rich's murder. We're going to be following this one very, very closely, but this is a breakthrough today. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is in Turkey today for the NATO summit, where he's doing what he does best, putting America first and not taking any nonsense from our so-called allies. You'll recall in President Trump's first term, he got our NATO allies to cough up $650 million in past due dues they owed to the organization. They had essentially been taking Uncle Sam for a sucker as we paid for their national defense. Now, personally, I understood the importance of NATO in the aftermath of World War II. When Europe was devastated and America was still economically relatively strong. But over time, it has never made sense to me that while America had economic problems, we had continued to pay for the defense of our NATO allies when they didn't pay their fair share. Talk about consistency. When Donald Trump traveled to New Hampshire in 1988, at my suggestion, to kind of test the waters for a potential presidential bid, something that Trump decided on his own was premature. He spoke about this in his luncheon speech to the Portsmouth, New Hampshire Chamber of Commerce. So this is not a new theme for the president. He continues to be a critic of NATO. More precisely and more recently, in our actions both in Midnight Hammer and Epic Fury, when our NATO allies did not allow us to use the U.S. bases that we bought and paid for in their countries. Yes, I'm talking about you, Italy. So the president is at a contentious meeting here in Ankara with our NATO allies, while meeting with the Turkish president, Erdogan, a man Trump has always praised as a strong leader and a friend. The president dropped some major bombshells, announcing the United States will be lifting the sanctions on Turkey that were put in place after they bought Russian defense systems. He also said he'd be seriously considered selling them F-35 fighter jets again. Trump didn't stop there, however. He went on to address the rest of NATO, blasting the European countries for refusing to let America give America help when we needed them in Iran, even after we spent literally trillions protecting them for decades. The president made it crystal clear he's disappointed with NATO, and he's openly considering pulling American troops out of Europe. Personally, I think that's a great idea. As he put it, if the summit wasn't in Turkey with his friend Erdogan, he might not even have shown up. This is classic Trump, calling out the freeloading Europeans who refuse to pull their own weight while making smart transactional deals that put America interests first. No more America getting taken advantage of. No more Uncle Sam playing the sucker. America first is back, and real leverage is being used to get results. The mainstream media may hate it, but this is exactly how you put America in a position of strength once again. Meanwhile, Democrats seem to be in full damage control in Maine, where Senate candidate Graham Plattner is now facing a political collapse after a woman who previously dated him alleged that he raped her in 2021. Plattner is, of course, challenging Susan Collins, a veteran Republican senator who's thought to be among the most vulnerable incumbents in the country. Given the expected closeness and competitiveness of the 2026 elections, this Maine race was marked by Democrats as one of their key opportunities for a pickup, but that seems to have collapsed when the sitting governor of Maine withdrew from the race, and they nominated Graham Plattner, a very strange individual, has a Nazi tattoo and a very storied history, very odd. Plattner, of course, denies these latest allegations, but the fallout has been swift. Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego, himself under federal investigation for misuse of campaign funds and a rather racy lifestyle, rescinded his endorsement, calling the allegations troubling and deeply serious. California Congressman Ro Khanna went further, saying sexual assault is a red line and urged Plattner to drop out. Our Revolution, that's the progressive group born out of Bernie Sanders' 2060 campaign, also pulled its support and called on Plattner to withdraw. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democratic National Senatorial Committee Chair Kristen Gillibrand of New York, said the allegations are incredibly disturbing and warned that the Democrat Senate Campaign Committee will not invest in the Maine Senate race if Plattner remains on the ballot. So you see one of their best chances in the country collapsing in the state of Maine. Susan Collins, a more moderate Republican, but a longtime friend of mine. I would rather have a senator who's with you 65 to 70% of the time rather than a radical progressive like Plattner who's with you 0% of the time. In this case, the alleged victim, one Jenny Racicot, told Politico she had an on and off relationship with Plattner and alleged he came to her rural Maine home uninvited while drunk and raped her despite repeated objections. Plattner has adamantly denied the claim, but there have been too many scandals for him to overcome. For Democrats, the political damage is undeniable and a serious stain on the party whether Plattner abdicates or not. This is the latest in an array of scandals surrounding a candidate the left once promoted as a fresh standard bearer of political change. Democrats have spent years lecturing the country about believing women and moral accountability. They've said to believe all women. But now if Plattner refuses to budge and stays in the race all the way till November, they'll be put between a rock and a hard place. And that's not boding well for their mid-term chances in Maine or across the country. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump announced Monday that Walmart will lower prices on a range of everyday products after a request from the Trump administration, tying the move to America's upcoming 205th birthday celebration. That was last weekend, actually. President Trump said that Walmart will cut the price of ground beef, for example, by 15%, along with reductions on other key products. He praised the company as one of America's biggest, best, and smartest retailers, calling Walmart a patriotic company that loves the United States. For millions of working Americans who shop at Walmart, this is welcome news. After years of painful inflation under Joe Biden, Americans have been desperate for relief at the grocery store, the gas pump, and the pharmacy counter. Whether or not Republicans are successful in the midterm elections will hinge very much on whether that by November they feel that they have gotten that relief. President Trump says his administration is already delivering. He points to the falling oil and gas prices, lower egg prices, and efforts to bring down prescription drug prices. He also noted that it was the previous administration who caused the worst inflation crisis in history, along with Biden's failures at the southern border and the disaster withdrawal of Afghanistan and the death of Americans there. President Trump's strong leadership and willingness to fight for the people shows that when leaders put America first, businesses are forced to respond. Free market, as we have been sold by Washington, D.C., egghead economists, is a lie, unfortunately. President Trump is using the bully pulpit to push major retailers to help consumers directly. Walmart is stepping up. President Trump is urging other retailers to follow its lead. As we continue celebrating 250 years of American independence, this is exactly the kind of patriotic partnership voters want to see between the public and private sectors. It's resulting in lower prices and stronger businesses because we finally have a government focused on helping American families. Just like in Britain with Brexit, Nigel Farage won't stop him. He achieves a victory. We at the Stone Home wish him the best in his endeavors to make Britain great again. Nigel Farage has thrown down the gauntlet in the UK to the political establishment. His Reform UK Leadership Party announced that he will resign as a member of Parliament, triggering a by-election he plans to contest himself. Farage, who won that seat in 2024, says the vote will be a direct test of whether the voters or the insiders at Westminster get the final say. He calls it a people versus the establishment by-election, that's a special election, and said it's a chance for ordinary citizens to push back against political elites and a hostile press. This important symbolic move comes as Farage faces scrutiny over his personal finances and political donations, including a £5 million gift from a cryptocurrency businessman named Christopher Harborn, and some questions about support for a longtime associate, George Cottrell. Farage denies any wrongdoing, says he's broken the laws, and the allegations are part of an ongoing establishment campaign to discredit him and his Reform UK movement. We see democracy fraying at the edges in the UK. Once the cradle of free speech and democracy, today in the UK, it is illegal to question radical Islam, for which you will be prosecuted. And we have seen not only citizens, but even school children arrested and prosecuted over such actions. Farage has called out sections of the media targeting his family, including his daughter, and as the news coverage has intensified, this move to resign his seat and go to a special by-election as a test is a piece of political genius, and I'm looking forward to that contest. Thanks for joining us today in the Stone Zone. We'll be back with more political news, including this great bombshell story regarding Seth Rich.